women, meow! Everybody knows the Wolfman, but did you know there's also a rich cinematic tradition of women turning into murderous cat monsters? Cat people, the vampire lovers, cat people again, Sleepwalkers, the island of Dr. Moreau, and of course, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Why cats? Why women? Is it because they're both sensual and mysterious? Is it because they both like to play with string? Is it like in the Vampire Lovers where turning into a giant cat monster makes for handy sapphic innuendo?
And I feel its fur in my mouth.
In Japan, they have an entire subgenre of monster cat or ghost cat films derived from traditional theater and folklore, typically involving innocent women murdered and returning as bloodthirsty cat spirits to take revenge. This brings us to 1968's Kuroneko, aka The Black Cat, aka Black Cat in a Bamboo Grove. There's something especially effective about ghost stories adapted from folklore that take place before the advent of digital cameras, brownstone apartments, and all their accompanying neurosis. All those gimmicks and backdrops that make up so much of modern supernatural horror. Kuroneko is like a ghost story told around a campfire, from a time when people really did believe in spirits and demons, the same as everybody today does the cell phone in their pocket. There could be anything lurking in those dark shadows. That pale young woman walking alone at night really could be a murderous cat ghost. What I really like about Kuroneko is, like director Kaneto Shindō's previous foray into horror, 1964's Onibaba, this movie's got style and atmosphere for miles. It's movies like this that really show the value of black and white, especially in the horror genre. Black and white narrows down your focus, narrows down the eye to just those dark shadows and those pale women. The movie often uses an exaggerated theatrical approach to blocking and lighting to create a further sense of unreality, to create a world not just inhabited by ghosts and the supernatural, but a world shaped and transformed by them. The cat ghosts glide and somersault through the night in a flamboyant, almost joyful sort of way. They dance and have sex so that altogether the supernatural seems more earthly and natural than if the ghosts were relegated to simply moping about and clanking chains. Another thing Onibaba and Kuroneko both have in common is they both share some of the same initial premise. Both films share the premise of a woman and her daughter-in-law left to fend for themselves while all the men, their son and husband included, have all gone off to war. Both films revolve around the women preying upon hapless wandering samurai against a backdrop of demons and superstition. But where the demons in Onibaba are largely metaphorical, the demons in Kuroneko are literal and real. Where Onibaba revolves around desperate carnal lust, Kuroneko taps into a more romantic vein, into those feelings of heartbreak, grief, and melancholy that make for all the best ghost stories. Kuroneko begins in a bamboo grove as a haggard group of samurai creep up to a small shack occupied by a woman and her daughter-in-law. The samurai seize first upon the women's food, then take turns raping them before setting their house ablaze and leaving them for dead. The bodies of the women lie still in the burnt remains of their shack. A black cat licks at their wounds. As with Onibaba, Kuroneko presents a decidedly unglamorous depiction of the samurai, ragged, indistinguishable men turned wild and depraved, divorced from civilization by the horrors of war. It gives the audience a sort of peek behind the curtain, so that a short time later, when we do see some of these same men mounted on horseback, dressed in nice fine clothes, perhaps given land and fancy titles, it's just us and the murderous cat ghosts who know these men for what they really are. As night falls, the younger of the cat women stalks the Rajamon gate, using her feminine wiles to lead the unsuspecting samurai back to their spectral mansion in the bamboo grove, where after a few cups of sake, all chivalric pretense falls away and the men become the same rapacious thugs they were at the beginning of the film. The women, however, are not quite the same. As the younger woman seduces the samurai, her mother-in-law does a sort of kabuki wine mom dance in the dark, a kind of last rites / feeling of her oats before the younger woman pounces on the man's neck and tears out his throat. In the morning light, the women's spectral manor has disappeared, leaving only the burnt remains of their shack. In the seduction and murder of the samurai, Kuroneko shows how both men and women might leverage or subvert the expectations of their own and the opposite sex in order to achieve their goals. The murderous Catwoman plays the demure and finely dressed lady in need of a man to keep away the roving bandits of the night, while the samurai plays his corresponding role as dutiful protector. The first samurai the women ensnare does say to the younger one, "Hey, maybe you're a demon." It's the very first thing he says to her. But then she says to him, "Teehee, a demon? Who, me?" And after a bit of flattery, puts the man at ease. The cat ghost leverages all the typical pretense and expectation between men and women to lull her victims into a false sense of security, only to disrupt the entire routine and rip her victim's throat out. This goes on for a while, samurai passing by the Rashomon gate murdered in the night, until finally they begin to take rumors of the demon seriously. Meanwhile, there's Hachi. Our introduction to Hachi is on the battlefield. Hachi gets lucky and kills the opposing side's general, then brings the man's head to the leader of the samurai, who in turn makes him one of his retainers. From there, all it takes is a few buckets of water and a new set of fancy clothes, and Hachi's entire station in life has been improved. When Hachi returns home to tell his wife and mother the good news, he finds their house burned to the ground and the women gone. The man, it turns out, knows our murderous cat ghosts, or rather knows the women they used to be. Before he has any time to mourn, however, the leader of the samurai entrusts Hachi to hunt down and destroy the beast stalking the Rashomon gate, a task he readily accepts, not yet realizing that his wife and mother and the beast are all one and the same. In many ways, Hachi is a very modern, heroic protagonist. He's never shown to be especially capable or virtuous. He's arrived where he is thanks to dumb luck and a little bit of gumption. He serves as a glimpse into how an unscrupulous bandit like those shown at the beginning of the film might return home a member of the nobility. On the other hand, Hachi does seem to have some of the makings of a real hero. When tasked with dispatching the ghosts, he rises to the occasion in a kind of fake-it-till-you-make-it sort of way. When he recounts the story to the leader of the samurai of how he took the enemy general's head, he's maybe not lying exactly, but definitely imbues the tale with much more heroic gravitas than the desperate sniveling scrape it actually was. Again, we have a character leaning on pretense, on the perception of how a man at war is expected to be rather than the reality. When Hachi bravely rides out to destroy the ghosts, there's a sense that he's been sentenced to death. Other men have tried and failed to kill the monsters, and there's nothing to suggest that Hachi would fare any better. He's been sent so that the leader of the samurai can pretend like he's doing something. The only thing that saves Hachi is that these ghosts used to be his wife and mother. Failing to kill them, Hachi returns to the women every night to make love to his wife. Here we have yet another role reversal as the younger woman, the bloodthirsty man-killer, gives herself over to her desire and exposes her throat to her husband for him to either rip out or caress. One thing to note is that there is never any 100% explicit confirmation that these women are the man's wife and mother, or how much of them might still be human and how much might be given over to some dark supernatural force. For the most part, Hachi accepts that these are his wife and mother because all of his senses tell him so. The audience can infer the same thing from the tears in their eyes every time they come into conflict with Hachi. At the same time, his mother makes it clear that the women are forbidden from revealing their true identities. Eventually, Hachi returns to that spectral manor in the bamboo grove to find his wife gone, to which his mother tells him that she was only allowed 7 days of love before being banished from the earth for breaking her vow to drink the blood of any living samurai, Hachi included. In gaining the power to overcome the samurai, the women have also inherited a samurai-esque obligation to whatever dark forces have enabled them to carry out their vengeance in the first place. The women have been shirking their obligation, but then so has Hachi, all in the name of love. Soon, however, the older woman begins to kill again, while Hachi is chastised by his master that he must destroy this other ghost or else it will be his head up on the chopping block. In time, a division between the sexes is transformed into a conflict of duties, a strange folkloric battle of wills as Hachi first cuts off his mother's arm and then later she returns to get it back. Conventional logic goes out the window in favor of a logic built upon superstition, myth, and the theater. Damn it, Hachi, you weren't supposed to let anyone else into your special purification room. How can't you tell that's your spooky ghost mom in disguise? In the end, broken-hearted and driven mad by his contest with the vast, supernatural unknown, Hachi goes raving through the women's spectral manor, then collapses in the burnt remains of their home. The cat women claim another samurai, snow covers the earth, and somewhere a black cat cries mournfully. In conclusion, Kuroneko is a really good movie.